Welcome to CFP Exam Prep. Today we're diving into a critical topic that appears frequently on the exam. Client confidentiality and privacy are cornerstones of financial planning practice, and understanding their nuances is essential for both the exam and real world practice. Let's break down client confidentiality into its core components. The fundamental principle is that financial planners must protect all client information and keep it private unless specifically authorized to disclose it. This includes both financial and personal information gathered during the planning relationship. A common exam mistake is confusing general confidentiality with the more specific privacy rules. Think of confidentiality as the broader umbrella, while privacy relates specifically to how you handle, store, and protect client data. The exam often includes questions that test your ability to differentiate between these concepts. Here's a practical example that frequently appears on the exam. A client's ex-spouse contacts you requesting information about the client's investment portfolio. Even if the ex-spouse was previously authorized to receive this information, you must obtain new, explicit permission from your client before sharing any details. Many test takers incorrectly assume that previous authorizations remain valid after significant life events like divorce. Now, let's address the exceptions to confidentiality rules, as these are prime targets for exam questions. Legal requirements, such as court orders or subpoenas, can override confidentiality obligations. Additionally, financial planners must report suspected financial exploitation of vulnerable adults and comply with anti-money laundering regulations. The exam often presents scenarios where you need to determine whether an exception applies. Another crucial aspect is understanding the scope of confidentiality in team settings. When working with other professionals like accountants or attorneys, you need explicit client permission to share information, even if it would benefit the client. This is where many candidates make mistakes, assuming that working in the client's best interest automatically permits information sharing. Digital security is increasingly important in maintaining client privacy. Financial planners must use secure systems for storing and transmitting client information. The exam may present scenarios about email communication, cloud storage, or mobile device usage. Remember that convenience should never compromise security. A particularly tricky exam concept is the need-to-know principle. Even within your firm, client information should only be shared with those who need it to perform their duties. The exam might present scenarios where you need to decide whether sharing information with a colleague is appropriate. Here's a key point that often appears in exam questions. When a client dies, confidentiality obligations continue. Many test takers mistakenly believe that death automatically terminates privacy requirements. In reality, you must still protect the deceased client's information and only share it with legally authorized representatives. Let's wrap up with a practical memory aid. Think of client confidentiality as a bank vault. You're the vault keeper, and there are only 3 keys that can open it. First, client permission. Second, legal requirement. Third, regulatory obligation. If a situation doesn't fit one of these 3 keys, the vault stays locked. Remember, the exam tends to present complex scenarios where multiple factors are at play. Focus on identifying whether a legitimate exception exists, and when in doubt, err on the side of maintaining confidentiality. This approach will serve you well both on the exam and in your future practice.